Thank you, everybody. Welcome to Manny Diaz's weekly press conference. Miami is currently ranked 9th in both of the polls, coming off a win over NC State. And next heads to Blacksburg, Virginia to play Virginia Tech on Saturday at noon on ESPN2. We will start with an opening statement from Coach Diaz and then open it up for questions. Coach, take it away.
Thank you, Carter. First, it's good to see a little bit of the sun and some blue skies poking out, and want to start off by just hoping everybody in the community is doing okay from the tropical storm that went through. I know there's some flooding in parts of the community, and so just we're thinking about those that are they're having it tough today. And we had to adjust our schedule, our Sunday night schedule last night to get our players out of here a little bit early. We cut our meetings short, trimmed a little bit off of our practice, but we're still able to review the things we needed to review from the game film from NC State. Again, obviously very proud of a win that took a lot of perseverance, a lot of resilience, a lot of character and heart shown by our football team, and proud of the way that really in our last 3 games, we found different ways to win games. Versus Pitt, it had to be explosive plays by the offense, defense hanging in there to give our offense a chance. Virginia had to win a low-scoring game. 19-14, and then obviously NC State, had to find a way to score a bunch of points to win the game, and offense picked up the defense, just like the defense picked up the offense the week before. So that gives us a chance to for another week to go up to Blacksburg, another opportunity to be 1-0 this week, which is really all we can control, and we'll be excited to get up there and play. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Great. Thanks, Coach. We'll start with Christopher Stock from Inside the U. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, Manny, I'm curious about defensive metrics that you value as a coach over the years. I think you've mentioned yards per play being one of those. Can you just speak on maybe some of the things that you really look for when you identify and evaluate the defense?
Well, yeah, if you're dealing with yards in this day and age, you've got to use a per play basis, right? Yards per play. We're not where we normally are in our standard, but we're 4th in our conference in defensive yards per play. We're 4th versus the rush. We're actually number 1 versus the pass in yards per pass attempt. But I think the reason why we're winning games again is because we're 4th in red zone and we're 4th in third down. So we've been good in some of the situational stuff. But 2 things can be true at once. We can be doing pretty good shape and still know that we have room for improvement and the need to play more consistently. And the need at times for certain position groups to play better.
Next, we'll go to David Lake from 24/7. David, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, was wondering if you could just talk about the challenge Hendon Hooker poses, maybe what you guys remember from seeing him last year. I think it was maybe his first start, if I remember that correctly. And then also, too, if you could just assess the linebacker play against NC State. Did you see the improvement you were hoping to see coming off the bye?
Yeah, I'll start with that. We did. Yeah, I thought Bradley Jennings played maybe his best game of the year. Zach McLeod had that missed opportunity on the pass early on, but I thought in the run game did a lot better job. I thought overall we were a lot better versus the run. The one that spit out was a gap a safety has to cover and was just poorly aligned to do his job. So our front played a lot better. We got better as the game went on, of course, playing the run, which I thought was the key in the game, shutting the run game down in the second half. In terms of Hooker, he gave him a lot of excitement, shot in the arm in our game a year ago. And I don't think I think he almost won every game after he took over until the very end of their season a year ago. So just a big, strong guy. So number one, he's hard to tackle. And we see like with De'Eric, when the quarterback, when you have to account for his legs, it really changes the way that you play defense. And for me, this is our 5th year going up against this staff, and it's a staff that we have a lot of respect for. They really know what they're doing, coaching offensive football. And when their quarterback is a runner, like it's similar to what it was in 2016, which was really their best year, it just changes what they can do, and it changes the way that you've got to play them. And his ability to fall forward, and they have always been outstanding in red zone offense, and they are again this year. So he certainly has our respect from what we saw last year, what we've seen on tape this year.
Next up, we'll go to Manny Navarro from The Athletic. Manny, go ahead.
Hey, Coach Diaz. I know in the past, sometimes the coaches get the blame for whenever things go bad. Obviously, sometimes it's the players. I'm not necessarily looking for that. Just from a scheme standpoint on pass defense last week, do you just tip your cap and say, hey, they had great wide receivers and beat us on some plays, or were there some plays where maybe schematically guys weren't just where they were supposed to be in coverage?
Well, it can be both, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, there's three plays that 86 made that were just extraordinary plays, right? I mean, two were, the one through McLeod, one on really tight coverage on the sideline, and one really got jammed up on the sideline. We had bad eye discipline. We look back in the backfield, and he makes a throw downfield on, I think, the first drive of the game. The fade on Ivy was outstanding throw and catch, in the back box of the end zone. We can defend it better, but that's still a high, level of execution from their offense. What was disappointing to me is that when they and we knew, by the way, 86 can play for anybody. 86 was start at Clemson. He's caught balls down the field on everybody NC State has played this year. That dude's got to be up for all conference, and because he's done it every week. What was disappointing was that when they made some high execution plays early in the game, which, okay, they're on scholarship, they can play too. Certain guys, we allowed that to get to us, and then look. As I said, you play the game, the guy's going to catch a ball on you. But now the way that we play crossing routes, for example, where we turn a guy loose and we pick up another guy coming back and those type things, we started busting on those. And so it's the idea of where we let some plays affect other plays. Mm-hmm. And that, I thought, was really what haunted us through the second and maybe part of the third quarter, where suddenly – now they started the game and they had some good execution, which, they had a good offense. They were able to do that. But then we started helping them by getting a little bit out of our mentality, our mindset, which we got better at the end. And I think that's what we really spoke a lot about yesterday is that why do we let this thing affect us the way that it does? And all of a sudden now our eyes get all crazy. We start trying to do too much and we see where we are when we do our job and where we are when we don't do our job. So in terms of, our ability to learn and grow off that, we have to, because, look, we're going to play with people that are going to be able to make plays, and you got to be able to line back up and go play again.
And then I know you guys were shorthanded, obviously, on special teams because guys were out, but curious on the kick return, what you kind of saw that the breakdown because you guys usually don't, you guys do cover kicks really well. So it was kind of unusual.
Yeah. Our special teams was really the most disappointing aspect of the game. We've been phenomenal on kick coverage. That usually starts with a great kick by Jose. This was a really good kick. They were bringing the ball back to the field. Everybody recognized there was one little clue that Coach Packey does a great job of letting the guys know, and they found it. And everybody starts to avoid to the field side, and then it just came into tackling. We had 3 or 4 guys right there at the moment of truth. We thought that there was a potential block in the back that wasn't called, and we missed a tackle. Our safety misses the tackle. Jose misses the tackle, and then again, 7 can play. We thought 7 and 86 were their 2 best players on their football team, and off he goes. So. Very disappointing. Point of the game, you can't take a play away, but that's the thing you can't give a team like NC State. You can't let them get 7 points on us in special teams. And then we were very uncharacteristic with our penalties on our return team, kickoff return. Guys just again, trying to do too much, trying to dominate guys instead of just block their guy, and trying to take guys to the ground and getting called for holding, and that's where, again, we sort of went red line a little bit and it's not a lack of effort, but guys going a little bit, almost too far. And that, as a result, was backing up our offense. We're always starting from the shadow of our own goalpost, including on the some of those key drives there at the end. So that's not been our standard all year. We've been outstanding in the kicking game all year, and we've got that was a big point of our meetings yesterday to get that cleaned up.
Next, we'll go to David Furones from the Sun Sentinel. David, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, 2 questions. First, I wanted to ask, obviously I know you guys had to have a lot of your eyes on the Notre Dame-Clemson game on Saturday night. Although the Notre Dame win might put a dent into the easiest path as far as the help you need to get to the ACC championship game, can you talk about just getting your guys to stay the course and, is really what you guys need right now, just to focus on self and just let the rest take care of itself around you?
That's what we talked about. I told them last night. I said we called the ACC and we asked them what the tiebreaker was, and they said go 1-0 this week. That's it. I mean, that's all we can control. I mean, I'm joking, of course, when I say that, but nothing matters. I mean, if we're sitting around talking about what December is going to look like, we will get beat in November. So our guys have done a pretty good job of that. Every week we kind of pull the lens out. We sort of look at where the league is. And then when we're done talking about it, we don't talk about it again for the rest of the week. And everything goes into just beat Virginia Tech. Because, look, winning on the road in the league, that'll be enough for us to focus on in 1 week.
And the other question I wanted to ask, you told us a post game that last week you had a lot of players out in practice. Just a general sense of what practice is looking like this week, what it's looking like for you guys.
Yeah, we won't have a backup quarterback playing on our dime defense like we had midway through last week. It'll be better. We are getting guys back. It's still incremental, as the week goes on. And again, we're still at the mercy of the testing throughout the week. So, we hope the lowest number of guys that we've had around available that we've passed that, but we don't assume anything in 2020. So, but we did have some more guys out there last night, and as the week goes on, we hope to get some more guys cleared, but we're still waiting on medical clearance.
Next, we'll go to Gary Furman from Kane Sport. Gary, go ahead. All right, Gary, we'll come back to you. Let's next go to David Teal from the Richmond Times-Dispatch. David, go ahead.
Coach, you mentioned Friday night in your post game that type of game is just football in 2020. This season's on pace to be the highest scoring in ACC history. As you approach this season, did you anticipate offenses being ahead of defenses because of the truncated preseason and the lack of spring ball?
You knew that could certainly be a possibility, because I think the thing that's affected everybody is the physicality, the tackling. You lose the scrimmages in the springtime, and then when you lose your depth, you really got to be careful on how much hitting you do in practice, right? Because there are a couple of position groups we had a week ago where we were a guy or two away from canceling the game. So then all of a sudden, you can go out there and practice like it's, 20 years ago. That makes it very difficult. So I do think schematically, what we've seen, the developments in the passing game and those type deals are making, if you just look at whether you're talking about Notre Dame, Clemson, or just a lot of other high profile games with top 10 teams, you don't see 17-13 anymore. You got to be able to score to win in college football in 2020. And so, I know for us, we knew that when we pushed the tempo on offense, that changes the way we practice. We knew that we would incur more snaps for our defense this year. It's all the things that we go into, but we did it to lead. The only category we want to lead the country is we want to lead the country in wins, yards, all those type of things. Those things don't matter. We just want to win the game, and we do feel like we're better equipped to win football games this year than we were a year ago. And so, I don't know that David, I don't know if that is going to go back in the box. It's just football has made a transformation that is going to. I don't know that we'll ever go back and see 13-10 and those type games. I think those will be the anomaly.
You're a defensive guy. Does that pain you, or are you okay with it?
No, because you can still play great defense, and just how you measure it changes. Certainly giving up 34 or 41 points isn't playing great defense, but you can still get stops. You can still play with physicality. You can still tackle great. You can do all those things, but you still have to understand that the way offenses are running plays now and through RPO games and things like that, they're harder to get them. You could really do some things where you could get them on a certain call, and now they've got more answers. It's like a basketball, running pick and roll. They can kind of throw the ball 3 different ways based off of how you defend the pick and roll. So, but it's the game is still going to come down to toughness and tackling. And I think if anything, you take more pride in it now, to be very honest, because playing great defense now, the odds are stacked against you. So it is more fun to try to keep that score down, and our guys try to take a lot of pride in. That's why we were disappointed in how we played in Raleigh.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Tom D'Angelo from the Palm Beach Post. Tom, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, now that the election is over, we think, and it's been a very divisive time, and you have households where 2 people where they're divided, never mind 100 kids on a college camp, on a football team, where I'm sure, not everyone voted for the same people, not everyone have the same views. Have you spoken, is your team talked to, or the committee, or so you spoken about coming together after this, very kind of tumultuous divide that we've had in this country, now that this is all over, and respecting other people, their views and all that kind of thing. Have any of those conversations, do they take place? Have they taken place?
I think what's fascinating, Tom, is that we've had that conversation all year about our team, about how important it is for our team to come together, you know, going back to all the madness back in March, April. And you know, you've heard me say it all year, and how important a connected team would be this year. And you know, and I mentioned back in, you know, earlier in the fall, when you saw the Heats run in the playoffs, you could just see that the teams that have a little bit better connection might just be better poised because of all the divisiveness and all the negativity. And we see it in sports now too. And look, it's so easy. You know, it's so easy to play a game and get caught up in the negativity, to be honest, whether you win or whether you lose. And so we try to keep it internally. We try to really focus on what we value, but, you know, and then enjoy the wins, because these wins are hard to come by, and these games are not guaranteed to us. We really felt that a week ago when it was close. And when we had the opportunity to play, and when you see the way the game shaped out, and guys had to, you know, pick up for other guys, and we were, I'll be very honest, Tom, we were a little divisive in the second quarter. We got a little different, and to see us come together and see the positive energy. I know this sounds like crazy, but it was real, and the players experienced it. To see the energy that our players had in the fourth quarter, in between drives and for each other, I think had a lot to do with how we won the game. And so I think that's always mattered. I feel like in 2020, it matters even more.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to David Wilson from the Herald. David, go ahead.
Hey, Manny. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Mike Harley over the last couple of weeks, but Mark Pope also seems like he has taken a pretty huge step these last 2 weeks, just, you know, making those tough catches that obviously he did a lot in high school, but hadn't really so far here. Are you seeing anything kind of tangibly different with him, the way he's carrying himself? Anything you've kind of noticed that maybe we haven't been able to see behind the scenes in practice and stuff like that?
I think it was important. I think those catches that all those guys, including D. Wiggins, made in the Virginia game, finally could take a breath, you know, and got some confidence that they could make those plays down the field. Because really, D's touchdown was, you know, clinic tape on how you beat a guy on a release and then you stack them, which means you get the defender, you know, sort of in your jet stream, and then the quarterback can phase you to the outside. And so for all those guys, I think to make the plays they've made, I think their confidence is at a different level. And this just shows you, it's so funny about college football. It's so easy to overreact. You know, you look at Derek's performance and all this. Remember, 2 weeks ago, we couldn't throw a deep ball, you know, and now you look at us, you know, on Friday night. And look, we got to prove ourselves again this Saturday. But these kids, they do develop and they do learn, and we are in a new offense. And I thought the way that Rob Likens has handled his entire position group and Rhett Lashley, the entire offense, it's fun to talk about scheme, but just the value of just stacking reps on top of each other and just being persistent on, we're going to get really, really good at this. And when we do, watch out. And that was true against UAB when we didn't really throw the ball a whole lot and throw it all that well. And as the year kind of went on, and now we're starting to get better, and the players have a lot of confidence in that. And boy, when you can throw that ball deep down the field, it really changes things. And that's why you can put big numbers up on the scoreboard. Now we got to match that. Now we got to get our run game back going like we had it earlier in the year and get more explosive runs, because that part has kind of dried out the last few weeks.
We'll stick with the Herald and go next to Susan Miller-Degnan. Susan, go ahead.
Hey, Manny. I believe that 5 assistants were out from the Miami Dolphins yesterday, you know, COVID related. Can you do anything? That must be nerve wracking for you every week, but can you do anything to prepare yourself for something like that? And then I wanted to ask you something along the leadership lines also when you're done.
Yeah, to your first question, yes, we have, you know, we sort of have unofficial if this, then that staff dynamics. I think the thing we do, we try to do a really good job of in the building is, you know, we don't meet in our normal staff room. We don't meet in our normal offensive and defensive staff rooms. We meet in big team meeting rooms. We're in large areas. We're all spread out apart from each other. We're obviously always wearing masks when we're in the building. So we do as much as we can, and it's still hard, you know, and there's no guarantee that it won't affect our staff, but our guys have done a good job of trying to protect the program and protect each other.
Okay, and then thank you. And then the other thing was you were talking about connection, and how impressed are you with some of the leadership of the younger players or players maybe who haven't been as high profile in former years, maybe Gilbert Frierson. I'm not sure if Don Chaney is one of those leaders, but can you talk about that and any specific guys, young guys?
Well, Gilbert for sure. He's not that much of a young guy anymore, but
I know.
This junior class has been through a lot. The junior class they were recruited, they were all in the stands at that Notre Dame game in 2017. And they came here and they went 13-13 their first 2 years. And they saw a lot of the reasons why, when they were the young guys on the team, they saw a lot of the things that the upperclassmen did that maybe didn't, let's just say didn't contribute to us having the best of seasons, especially as the year went on. So, in all of our conversations during the offseason, they wanted to be the change. They wanted to make things different than the way that they had seen it in the past and role model better things for our younger guys. And Gilbert, like I mentioned after the game, I thought Gilbert did an amazing job at halftime. I kind of walked in and just walked by the players. Just wanted to see, kind of what, who was going to say what. And Gilbert got right in front of the defense and said, this is not us. And it had nothing to do with technique, playing, whatever. It was just we had lost our connection, and guys were the effort wasn't an issue, but like I said, we were almost like a car that was driving on red line, and we were steering off the tracks and just not out of our minds a little bit, and he refocused everybody. Then I was able to go in there and say a couple of things that I thought needed to be said, and it just felt different from that point on.
Okay, thank you.
Got time for 2 more. We'll go to Barry Jackson from the Herald. Barry, go ahead.
Hi, Manny. You've talked about player development and the value of it. We've seen improvement from a bunch of guys. 2 in particular, I wanted to ask you why you think they've taken such a big step beyond just age. One would be Harley, and one would be Zion Nelson, whose pass protection has been stupendous the last couple of games.
Outstanding word, stupendous. I agree with you, though. It has been stupendous. Zion, when you talk about development, first of all, you have to give credit to our strength staff, David Feely, and the transformation in his physique since he's gotten here. And Zion gets the credit, too. He's put in the work. That's a different guy than that first walked into our weight room maybe 18 months ago. I think what maybe Zion and Mike both have in common is I think what we're doing on offense, they've had good coaches before, but I think schematically, I think that the simplicity and the ability to do the same thing over and over again. We have for Zion fewer protections, maybe some fewer running plays, less things to have to learn. And look, and again, we have to say about Zion. Zion got thrown into the Lions' den a year ago. It's just hard to play left tackle in major college football as a true freshman. It's almost unheard of. So just the fact that he had the courage to hang in there all year, I think says a lot about who Zion is. And then with Mike, Mike, it's about perseverance, but again, just being in an offense where, these plays are there to be made, and whether they're schemed up like the touchdown against Virginia, where we kind of knew we had a double move on a good matchup, or just going out there and just making big plays. It's a double slant. Everybody in the country runs double slant. It's 3rd and 7. The DB's inside leverage. His job is to not let the offensive guy catch a slant. Mike's got to break his leverage, and he breaks his leverage and then is able to run through. And I think, again, you heard Mike talk about it, just, again, going back to David Feely and leg drive and lower body strength and able to run out of that tackle and then have the speed to carry it into the end zone. So a lot goes into it, I think, and that's the total idea of the program is it's scheme, it's position coaching, it's the weight room and all those things, and then just the maturity, as you mentioned as well.
Thanks, man.
We'll wrap up by going back to Gary Furman. Gary, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, a couple real quick questions. And you've touched on a lot of this in the last 25 minutes, so I'm not looking for you to be repetitive. But, going into the fourth quarter the other night, they had 41 points, and you guys had given up 404 yards. And then in the fourth quarter, they ran 8 plays for 6 yards. And that's just obviously a stunning reversal of fortune. And so my question would be, is that a byproduct of adjustments that are being made during the course of the game, scheme things that are being cleaned up? And how do you bottle that and turn that level of performance into a fourth quarter, a 4-quarter body of work that obviously would take the team to a whole nother level?
That's exactly right. So we only give up 32 yards a game. I'm with you on that, Gary. No, we talked about that, and what it comes down to more, it was really tightening up the what we were doing. It's not hey, let's go here, let's go there. We were doing the right things. We were doing them poorly. And we were doing them poorly because we just lost our mindset. The only other time that I've saw what we saw Friday night was at Clemson, and you saw the similarities with penalties, and we just weren't in the right mindset to play. I think after the first, again, the way I saw it, and got to give credit to NC State. I thought they started the game well. Thought they made some hard plays, and then them making some hard plays, I felt like put a pressure on us on defense that we did not respond very well to. And and of course the kickoff return was sort of another blow to the defense, because that now you got another 7 points on the board. But for whatever reason, the guys, it just was weird. Like before we took the field on the first drive of the fourth quarter, just what their conversations were to each other before they took the field, and the way that they, the way they just prepared for that drive, it just felt different. Like all of a sudden, I don't know why, they just took the pressure off themselves. I mean, they were playing as if they were still in the earlier, like we still were in those first two drives instead of just letting it go. And so again, we talked about that. I thought Gary, you're right on the money though, because we explained to the players, like, did you see the difference in your mentality of how you play the fourth quarter to how you play the second and the third? And I thought it was a great lesson. Look, winning every week is a learned activity. This is new for our program, right? And the challenges and the perceived pressure that comes with when you win this one, now you got to win the next one. You win that one, you got to win the next one. And there are programs that are accustomed to that, but they didn't get accustomed to that. There used to be a term called Clemsoning, right? And that was hard because it was hard. That was that game where they would find a way to lose to a perceived inferior opponent. So it is difficult to learn how to deal with the pressure, the perceived pressure of winning every week, when in reality that pressure doesn't exist. It's just internally, that's our standard, to playing to our standard. Everything else is something you're taking on from the outside. But it's been fun to watch our team learn how that works, and even the younger guys who are in a lot of ways our future, they're getting it now. They can see it. Okay, I see what this is like. I see what it's like to have to prepare to go 1-0 every week to give ourselves a chance to be in the mix in December.
And then one other quick thing before we go. Now seeing 7 games of the offense, the one thing that really stands out, and you see us doing this really better than, literally almost every team in college football, is the angles that they're creating in the pass routes that are like springing these explosive plays. From just the defensive standpoint, how difficult is that to defend? Basically with guys getting that type of leverage because of the angles they're taking on the routes?
Yeah, I think we do a good job. Some of those routes are called, and some of those routes that maybe you're talking about are actually read routes, that the receiver and quarterback have to be on the same page, predicated on how the defender plays it, which makes it very difficult because as a defender, it's hard to be right. But that takes a lot of reps, takes a lot of at-bats, because you got to do those things over and over again. But that, I think that's a big part of what we're doing, but it still takes a guy like De'Eric to be able to make those type of throws and be accurate with those throws to really sort of make the whole thing go. So you got to throw the ball to win in 2020. You just got to, and all you got to do is watch Saturday's games, and you can see high-profile examples where people can and where people can't. And because it's and then to score, you got to be able to score. So we're proud of where we are. I think our staff's doing a really good job. But there's no one in this building, players or coaches, that are satisfied. Everyone knows we have a lot of improving to do, and that's been our focus. We enjoy the win. We talk about on Sunday what we can do better, and then we get to work on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to make it true.
Great. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, everybody. Just a reminder, Rhett Lashley and Blake Baker up next on a separate Zoom link, and we will see you guys later in the week. Thank you.